All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Give me a touch on the top prop bets here for this 3-game slate on Thanksgiving. Going to be breaking down all the best bets here game by game, talking about the Chicago Bears versus the Detroit Lions, the Dallas Cowboys versus the New York Giants, the battle of the backup quarterbacks there. Then we got Green Bay versus Miami. Should be a fun, good video, guys. But first, happy Thanksgiving to you guys. Hopefully you guys are having a good day or will have a good day on Thanksgiving, depending on when you guys are watching this video. Now, let's go ahead and get into the best prop bets. So I do want to start off with this first game here, guys. We got Chicago versus Detroit, and the thing I really want to call out here in this matchup with Chicago versus Detroit is the improvement of the offense just in general. Since they have fired their offensive coordinator, this offense has been much better. Specifically, Caleb Williams has been much better, and that has been by design. I think that's the biggest thing I want to point out. One of the main annoyances for me watching film with the Chicago Bears is just how easy of a fix it seemed like with Caleb Williams. You were just wondering, or I was just wondering, is it just something mental with Caleb Williams that they're not doing these certain plays? No, that ended up not being the case. And what I mean by that is the fix was very simple. You need to get him short, easy, quick hitters to get the receiver the football, because he was just holding on to the football much and not really rushing the football. They also just need to get him design rushes. He has been a very good rusher of the football when he pulls the football. I mean, he looks great. There's a few highlights from the last 2 weeks that have been phenomenal. And so I do expect there to be a lot more manufactured touches to the receivers in the short game. But I also do expect those design rushes to still be there for Caleb Williams. And he has been better about pulling the football and really about knowing when to pull the football. And so I'm just using the general 9-to-5 NFL cheat sheet here to show you guys the best player prop bets for this slate, because it's a little bit too early for PrizePicks and Underdog plus EV bets. I know a lot of people typically watch for that. You can still make these bets on there. I will touch on the best bets for Thursday as well, specifically for PrizePicks and Underdog if we're getting any EV bets, but you guys will see that while I go through this video here as well. But looking at it, guys, I really just want to take a peek at the reception props here that we are getting for the Bears. I like Rome Odunze to get his over receptions, okay? Over 3.5 receptions. The projection data likes to get 3.5. The best edge that we're getting on is on Hard Rock Bet. They're giving him about a 55% likely for him to get this over. The thing with it is it's a good matchup. He's projected to get the over. Everything should be in line with this. He is someone that, since the new offensive coordinator has been calling the plays, has had 10 targets the last 2 games, 6 receptions, 5 receptions. Now, the issue that we have is I really like all the over receptions for all the receivers, whether that be DJ Moore or Keenan Allen. This is going to be a good matchup here for the Chicago Bears pass catchers. Keenan Allen has gotten a lot of targets. DJ Moore has still gotten a lot of targets as well. The issue that I have here is they probably have been throwing the football a little bit too much. Now, this is a matchup with Detroit where they're going to be playing from behind most likely, so it should warrant more of a pass-heavy script. And this is the weakness of the defense. And so I do think really all of them are popping up as good bets, whether it's Keenan Allen, whether it's DJ Moore. They're gaining a lot of snaps. And again, that's how you attack this offense, is throwing the football. And again, a lot of them are getting short, quick hitters. Now, the issue that we're going to have here is that all of these bets that we probably want to be targeting are bets that are a 57.5% likelihood, which kind of sucks. Honestly, it does. And so if you're betting on Underdog, you can by all means still make these bets. The payout with them is just clearly not going to be as good. We see 3.5 receptions for Odunze. That's only a 9.2x. Same thing with Keenan Allen. And so we're probably going to have to tease those bets in some capacity if you want to bet them as a demon on PrizePicks, or just simply chase these minus 125, minus 130 lines that we are getting for these. I'm kind of okay with that as well. I think that's the route that we should go about doing. And then I do like DJ Moore as well to get over his receptions. They are just throwing the football a bunch. And again, this is how you attack Detroit, is throwing the football. I expect there to be a high target volume still there for all 3 of those receivers. Maybe you want to do 2 out of the 3. That's probably the best route to go, but I still like all of them. And then I do want to take a quick peek here at Caleb Williams with his rush attempts. We are seeing it at 5.5. And again, he has had a few more design rush plays, which, thank you, finally. And as long as he's still getting at least 2 or 3 plays where he's deciding to pull the football and rush with it, he should be able to get that over. Now, if you guys have been following my coverage, I typically don't like to bet on quarterback rush attempts, but if you guys are trying to find another bet here, I'm okay with that. It's worth calling out DeAndre Swift's snaps have been down in the last couple of weeks, and Roschon Johnson has been more of the goal line back. So take that for what it's worth. But let's go ahead and jump on in To Detroit, the biggest thing with Detroit is that it seems like David Montgomery could end up sitting in this game. He ended up leaving the game in the second half last week, guys. And then we saw Jahmyr Gibbs instantly get 88% of the snaps after that. Ended up with 67% of the snaps on the game. Craig Reynolds would most likely be the backup, but I do think we can expect Jahmyr Gibbs to just obviously be thrust into a great position in a game in which they should be playing with the lead. We should expect Jahmyr Gibbs to get a healthy workload, both snaps and probably likely to score a touchdown. He ended up getting 21 rush attempts in that game, his most of the season thus far, and that's really not a fluke. That game was a game in which they had a game in which should look a lot like this week's game, honestly. They're 10-point favorites, 48.5 points. And so with that, I think we're just going to expect Jahmyr Gibbs to have a good game. Now, if David Montgomery is healthy and good to go, his former team, going against his former team, like he would get a decent workload, but at the same time, it's a short week. They have playoff aspirations. I don't think they would make him play in the game if he's not 100%. So I do think we're going to expect Jahmyr Gibbs to have a good game. The issue is that we're only getting his receiving yards props right now. And so with that, sure, I don't mind his over 18.5 receiving yards that we're getting here on BetMGM at -120. That's a line that's out there on PrizePicks and Underdog as well. I don't mind that, but I do want to probably chase more of his rush attempts props because I don't think that's going to be a good line that's out there. Now, obviously, we have to pay attention to that. There is one really good rush attempts prop bet that I like in the third game that we'll touch on a little bit later on here. But I think that's where we're going to be getting our best edge. Now let's go ahead and jump on into the next game, which is going to be Dallas versus the New York Giants. Definitely an interesting matchup here, guys. Lots to kind of cover real quickly. So Tommy DeVito obviously made his start there last week, ended up throwing for 189 yards. Looked terrible, honestly, which was expected. I mentioned this. His career has been defined by one good pass. He's had one good play, and that was against the Green Bay Packers where he threw a touchdown. That's it. He's bad. He's not good. But he is going against the Dallas Cowboys defense, a defense that has not been that good. So he's someone that could have a good game, but he's currently questionable. If he sits, I actually think the rest of the pass catchers would get a bump, given the fact that it'd be Drew Lock, who is not a good quarterback either, but would be an upgrade. Is worth calling out as well. Tyrone Tracy lost a lot of his work last week due to a fumble that he had where Devin Singletary got a lot of the work. If that didn't happen, if we could lock in Tracy getting 65% of the snaps, I would be happy to bet on him. But because of that, I don't want to bet on him. I think there's a little bit of uncertainty. And it's not like Devin Singletary has been someone that has played poorly. He was able to punch in a touchdown last week. Wasn't asked to do much. But when we have seen him play thus far this season, he has looked good. And so it wouldn't be surprising to see that split continue. And I just don't want to gamble on snaps that are going to be unpredictable to me to predict. Also worth calling out that Malik Neighbors, he didn't have a catch in the first half. He ended up having a really good game in the second half, 6 receptions, 9 targets total, 64 receiving yards. That's all great and dandy, right? But at the same time, he was pretty vocal about he's been vocal. I don't know if it's a positive or negative. I think you could spin it either way. Brian Dabble kind of commented on it as well. I think this is a situation where he could get some very early manufactured touches in this game. A couple of quick screens, maybe end around or something like that. I expect that to happen. And so I actually wouldn't mind the idea of probably betting on some maybe first quarter, first half prop bets on him if those are available. Because again, I do think it's kind of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think that could end up happening here with Malik Neighbors. Now I do want to touch on the Dallas Cowboys. They could be getting Brandon Cooks back in this game. I think it's somewhat expected. If that occurs, Jalen Tolbert is going to fall more probably into the receiver number 3 spot. But also it's going to be Cook's first game back. It'd probably be just more of a 50-50 split there. And then my boy, Rico Dowdle, ended up getting 64% of the snaps last week. He had 22 out of 26 opportunities at the running back position for the Dallas Cowboys. So he was clearly their lead back. Ended up having 19 rush attempts and 86 rush yards. Now, the biggest thing that we have here is that this should probably happen again. I kind of view the Cowboys as the better team, and Vegas does too, guys. And so they're 3.5 point favorites, 3.7 on average. And so I do think we could be looking at a little bit of Rico Dowdle potential rush attempts overs. But again, it's a little bit too early on in the week. We're not going to get those bets. And so I really don't mind his over rush yards just in general. The projection data doesn't like him. I'm saying I kind of think the projection data is wrong here. I don't mind the over. I probably like this line a little bit better, actually. Hard rock bet over 65.5 rush yards. You can get that at -115. I think that's a decent bet for us. Again, I think that volume is going to be there for him. It's a decent matchup there going against the Giants, a team that has been defeatable via the run game. And so I really don't mind that. Probably does feel like we're maybe forcing that a little bit, but if you're maybe doing a game stack, I think that's a route in which I could go with there. I think that's a good bet. And then, yeah, Malik Neighbors, I do think I like betting on him, probably over his receptions. We're not getting any reception prop bets here on the traditional sports books. Same thing with Underdog. And then with PrizePicks, they are giving us some lines, but it's the stupid demon and goblin, so no real reason to go out of our way to target that. That being said, I do like the idea of betting on Wan'Dale Robinson to get over his 3.5 receptions. This is more of a game bet. If you guys are looking to like make a bet on this game, I think this is a good way to get exposure to it. We can see he has clearly been able to get this over consistently. I actually really don't get this line. I don't get why it's not a goblin on it. Like, it should be a goblin to me in my eyes. And I think it might just be a case of not other books not having this line out just yet. I think that could easily be the reason as to why, because I feel like this is a bet that most likely will get bumped when the public is able to get in there and honestly see that game log, but it's more of a target thing for me where he consistently sees, 5+ targets. And the thing about his targets they're typically easy targets. They're typically right around the line of scrimmage. That didn't really change last week with Tommy DeVito as well. So I think that's a good bet. But another good bet that I really like is with Theo Johnson to get over 2.5 receptions. Now, his snaps actually went down slightly last week. That's a slight concern for me. But still, the targets were there. The receptions were there. He has been someone that has kind of been impressive as well. He's someone that's young, that it makes sense to get him some more work in a season that does seem to be lost. And again, this is a bet where I do think it could eventually be bumped once more lines get in there from the traditional books as well. And now, guys, let's go ahead and get into the last game, which is going to be my Green Bay Packers versus the Miami Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins have looked better, obviously, with Tua back. They've been winning more games, but really the whole offense is just healthy. They got a unique gadget player in Malik Washington, who I think has looked good. Tyreek Hill has somewhat struggled, but who cares? Devon Achane has been good enough. Tua's obviously playing well. Jalen Waddle finally had a good game last week. Jonnu Smith is someone that's been playing well as well. But with that, I don't really like many of the bets that we are getting for Miami. I feel like all their lines are kind of correct, especially given the stupid narrative that might be warranted, which is that Miami cannot play in cold weather. I kind of get it. I get the narrative. Looking at it, I don't hate the idea of doing Devon Achane for over his receptions, but at the same time, it's a 3.5 line for a goblin. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. I'm honestly okay with maybe potentially going with over 4.5 receptions. Obviously, this game has been an outlier on the season. His game last week against New England where he had 8 receptions. At the same time, we really hadn't seen this offense really be able to look the way most people would have thought. Now, it's a tougher matchup against Green Bay, but I could get behind that. I'm kind of out on Jonnu Smith, although I will say his fantasy score line is a little bit low. This was a bet that was popping up last week as a good under bet, and I was like, I don't really see that. I think we kind of saw last week against Las Vegas, and really a few games ago too as well. He's been impressive, and I think they're going to continue to try to get him the football. I would actually like the over fantasy score there. Again, guys, we'll be touching on PrizePicks and Underdog specifically at the end of this. This is just general breakdown. So for me, as it sits right now, I don't really like many of the bets that we are getting for Miami. So let's go ahead and jump into Green Bay. And the thing that's worth calling out is that it looks like Romeo Doubs is going to be out for the Green Bay Packers. Now, the last time that Romeo Doubs was out, Christian Watson was also out as well, so we don't have the best sample size, but I think we know what to expect. Dontavian Wicks is going to be the player that gets the snaps for Romeo Doubs. Now, it could be a little bit of Bo Melton as well, and a little bit of Malik Heath, but I think it'll just be Wicks the most. Wicks is a talented receiver, but it's actually Christian Watson was the leading receiver the last 2 weeks. He had a terrible drop last week against San Francisco. Should have been a touchdown. He was open by 3 yards, just a flat-out drop. We know he has had those drop issues in the past. That's a little bit concerning, but I do think he's going to have the chance to have a big chunk yardage play again, especially with Romeo Doubs out. That should just thrust him into a bigger role, but the bets that we're getting on him I don't necessarily like as well. And so, this is not a great matchup as well. We look at the Dontavian Wicks receptions, 2.5. It's kind of a crazy line to me, especially in a matchup against Miami. That is a difficult matchup, especially in a spot where the Packers are very random with who gets the production. I almost don't mind the idea of spreading out some under bets that are where the overs actually heavily favored it. So like, again, I like Wicks as a talent. I probably think he will get the over there, but at the same time, if you're getting at plus 135, it's not as concrete as some other spots because again, the Packers do spread out the production. It could be a Tucker Kraft game. I kind of expect that, but the player that I expect to have the best game or the best chances of having a bet that we're going to want to target is actually with Josh Jacobs to get over 16.5 for his rush attempts. This is a bet that I fully expect to be bumped on all sites, honestly. I don't really get the line. So his snaps have been very high, okay, especially coming in off the bye week, very high. Now, currently he's only projected to get 16.2 rush attempts. You look at the D average rush attempts given up to against Miami, 20.36. Now, that's a little bit skewed because you got to remember Tua was out for a few games where teams were just trying to rush the football. That's how they're getting beat. But that is still how you beat this team. And like, this is why they brought in Josh Jacobs is for this time of the season to give him a heavy workload if needed, and he has been someone that it should be needed. They are the favorites to win in this game, and the nice thing about the Packers is since the bye week, well, that's not true. Against Chicago, they were kind of making some stupid mistakes. That's kind of the Achilles heel for the Green Bay Packers is, honestly, if they play a mistake-free game, probably the best team in the league. Maybe, obviously, you could almost say that about a lot of teams, but when they are not making stupid mistakes, like just random dumb mistakes that shouldn't be happening in the NFL, they are a team that is extremely difficult to beat. I didn't see that many mistakes against the Niners last week. That is huge. If they continue to not have that many mistakes, that should lead to them playing with the lead. And if they are playing with the lead, that should lead to Josh Jacobs getting his over rush attempts. And he has been the focus. Now, the one concern that I have is that he did have some cramps last week. You know how hard it is to have cramps 50-degree weather, 40-degree weather in Wisconsin? It's insane. That shouldn't be happening. That's not true. It's just proper hydration and whatnot, but it's kind of funny that happened. Maybe that's why, because it was cold, he wasn't as that probably is why. Probably wasn't as properly hydrated as he should be playing in more cold weather. Anyways, I think this is a good line. He clearly has been part of the focus, and this is the way you attack Miami is with rush running backs, like 15th against running backs, so middle of the field. Look at how they are against receivers, second in terms of fantasy points given up. Tight ends, Tucker Kraft could have a good game, but I do like that Josh Jacobs over rush attempts line. Now we are going to jump into PrizePicks here, guys. I do want to call it that there is still this free square going on for Tyreek Hill. Use that by Thursday, guys, if you guys have not already. And if you guys have never signed up for PrizePicks before and you want to do so, make sure to use the promo code the number 9 and then TO5. That will give you guys $50 free when you use your first $5. Link to that is in the description below, as well as the promo code that you guys can use there. Honestly, take advantage of that though if you guys have not used that before. And so jumping into the current best prop bets that we have right now on PrizePicks, really not that many big edges. We do see Jaden Reed for under his fantasy score. Again, a difficult matchup. He is someone, though, that could get more production. The thing about Matt LaFleur is you really never know how he's going to attack a defense. We haven't seen Jaden Reed be utilized all too much recently. It kind of makes sense for this to be one of those weeks in which, all right, it is a Jaden Reed week just because it hasn't happened recently. From there, Josh Jacobs under receptions, don't really care for that. Jared Goff to throw for 2 touchdowns. I could see that against Chicago, especially with David Montgomery being banged up, kind of their goal line back. I could see that. That makes sense. If David Montgomery is out, I do think that does help out the likelihood for Jared Goff to get over 1.5 rush attempt or pass touchdowns. At the same time, I do think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a good game. And then from there, just a lot of tight lines from there. Like, okay, kind of is what it is. Actually, Brandon McManus, I think the over field goals made would be a better bet. So definitely an interesting line there. And then we jump on into Underdog real quick. More of the same. Devon Achane to not score a touchdown, 53.5% likely to hit. That's okay. The rest of these are really not too worthwhile in my opinion. I did just realize there's 2 bets that I missed calling out on that I want to call out. I actually don't hate the idea of betting on Cooper Rush and Tommy DeVito to get their over passing yards. Both of them get a good matchup. We see Cooper Rush is 2 for 2 thus far this year. Decent match for him against the Giants. The issue that I have with Cooper Rush is you're either choosing between Rico or Cooper Rush, and it does seem to be a guessing game. And then Tommy DeVito does get a good matchup here going against Dallas. Got the over against Tampa Bay barely. And again, he does suck, but I don't think that's a terrible line as well. So with that, guys, I do want to go ahead and get into the bets of the day for today. I'm going to show you guys them on PrizePicks and Underdog. You guys can go ahead and use these for those sites if you guys want to, but these are more just my favorite bets. We got 10 of them for this slate. Let's start off with Underdog. But before we do that, I do want to remind you guys of the promo code that's going on the website. Use the promo code KEEPCASHING to get 20% off your first 9 to 5 membership. Or if you guys are a returning member, that'll give you access to all the tools that you saw in this video, plus much more. Fantasy golf is going to be starting up again here for 2025 in the next month and a week. Lots of great tools there for that. All right, so we jump on into the Underdog bet of the day. I did go with Cooper Rush for over his passing yards on Underdog. It's a 1 yard difference, but hey, that could be the difference between it cashing or not cashing. I did mention that I wanted to get a bet on Jahmyr Gibbs. The only one that was available was his receiving yards, so I just did that there. I'm okay with that. From there, Josh Jacobs over 16.5 rush attempts. That's one of my favorite bets, honestly. I feel like that's just a very good line. I feel like that is something that's going to be bumped throughout the week. Rico Dowdle to get over his rushing yards. I do want to call it that I think these two, not exactly the strongest correlation there. I would say bet one or the other. Whichever one you think you want to be on the most, go with that. I will say Mike McCarthy has been very annoying with the way he's talked about Rico Dowdle thus far this season and not used him up until really the last 2 weeks. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come, that he will continue to get that work. At the same time, it could randomly be gone. And I do really like the idea of just betting on all three Bears receivers to have a good game, over 4.5 receptions for both DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. It's a good matchup. I expect them to be able to exploit that matchup. And then Roma Dunze as well for over 3.5 receptions. None of those are really good like payout bets. They're all like 0.9x, which is not great, but I do like those bets. And then Tommy DeVito to get his over passing yards as well. Again, do like the matchup. I think these two would almost correlate better. Rico and Tommy DeVito for their overs. Now let's go ahead and jump on into PrizePicks. So for PrizePicks, my 3 favorite bets. Now, I want to make this clear. I'm not running this out as a 3-slip bet on PrizePicks just because the payout's terrible on PrizePicks when you do that. Instead of it being 6x like it would be on Underdog, if these lines were available there, typically not worthwhile. 5x. Typically don't run out 3-slip bets on PrizePicks, but these are my 3 favorite bets here for this slate on PrizePicks. I like Caleb Williams to get over 5.5 rush attempts. I like Theo Johnson to get over 2.5 receptions, and then Wendell Robinson to get over 3.5 receptions. Those are all my favorite bets there. That's going to be all for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Again, guys, happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you guys had a good day, or having a good day, or will have a good day. Best wishes. Good luck with all your bets. Again, if you guys want access to any of the tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. That's going to be all, guys. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.